Hey guys, it's Jouelzy and I am going to do a video on a kind of personal topic I'm going to give myself to you guys. I've been meaning to talk about this topic for a while, but I never really know how to address it. The larger my audience gets, the more I realize that it's something that I should talk about. But also the larger my audience gets, the more I'm aware of the fact that there are people out there that don't necessarily watch because they like me. They watch because obviously, you know, there's a little bit of negativity and everything. And so it does make me a little bit more cautious about putting out personal information that could be misconstrued or thrown back in my face, or just to deaths in the natural hair community. I think that they both in their own way kind of for me exhibited how much we tend to feed into like thinking about how well off somebody is or how well doing someone is based off of like social media, and it gives a kind of false pretense to how one is really living. And I'm not referring to somebody actually lying about how they live, but I think we feed so much into kind of, oh well, I'm friends with this person on Facebook, or I follow this person on Instagram, and so I see that they're doing okay, and so we kind of lack that sort of intimacy of, you know, just thinking about someone and checking in on them or calling them or, you know, dealing with someone in 3D that I think is so important, especially for us young Black women who a lot of times have these strong senses of loneliness. I was diagnosed with anxiety when I was 12 years old. I do not remember the exact form of anxiety that I have, but I have a classified, whatever the psychology book is, D4, D6, whatever. I like legitimately have anxiety and panic disorder. I'm not a doctor. I have been to a therapist before. I have never taken medication, though it has been strongly suggested. It's just something that I personally am not comfortable with. And that's not even what this subject is about. What I really just want to talk about is just kind of not about mental illness and how much it does really impact our community, and that I don't feel like anybody should be ashamed of the things that they deal with. You know, when I was 12, I was literally just getting sick. That's how we established that I had anxiety. I remember going to the cancer wing of the DuPont Children's Hospital in Delaware and having to like get like a test. They like went through my stomach and my colon, and then, you know, the doctor's like, oh no, basically she has anxiety and she's worrying herself sick. I chose to deal with that by making lifestyle changes. And that's another reason why, again, I keep a very small social circle. I don't deal well with disappointment. I don't deal well with embarrassment. I don't deal well with negativity. And so I choose to make a very conscious effort to keep those things out of my life and at bay. I don't even know kind of how I really want to address how I've dealt with my own anxiety, because I don't want to give anybody misinformation. I don't want to discourage anyone who needs it from taking medication or from going to the therapist. I think seeing a therapist is great. I actually got fired from Apple, and when they were trying to fire me, you know, I read a letter to the VP of HR at corporate. She's a Black woman with locks. They made the mistake of showing us to her at a meeting, an employee meeting, and I was like, oh, they're gonna try and swindle me. I know exactly what to write to her in a letter. And Apple sent me to the therapist for 12 weeks, and it was probably for the better. It's one of the better. It was a life-changing moment for me to be able to sit down with she wasn't even like a PhD, she was like a psychotherapist. But I had been trying for a while to find a therapist on my own, and my medical insurance just really didn't allow for me to go to a therapist that often. But going, you know, swindling my way out of not getting fired from Apple, I landed with them paying for me to see a therapist. And don't ask what I wrote. But it was really good to kind of have someone who I was able to talk to that didn't have any preconceived notions of me, who once my visits were done with her, she wasn't going to tell none of my friends about me. There was no real possibility for her to talk about me with anybody else. And, you know, when our relationship ended, that's where it ended at. You know, for me, my anxiety is typically triggered from feelings of of my own standards of how I should be living. I don't really care about what other people think of me, but you know, I mentally have this place in life that I'm supposed to be at each age, at each marker, at each thing. And so, you know, sometimes I can just kind of overthink a situation, or I don't really deal well with being vulnerable or allowing someone to have control, whether it be, you know, a significant other or a friend, of my emotions. And so I kind of struggle a little bit with that. And, you know, it's something that I deal with. I have a great relationship with my mother. I tend to talk to her about everything just for that reason, and I think it's good to have a person that you really can trust in your life to talk to and be able to deal with those emotions. But more so to the point of the passing of Catherine Washington, I think is her name. She did the 4 brown girls movement and the dark skin red lips movement. Apparently she committed suicide last week. I don't know her personally. I didn't know of her prior to her passing away. But, you know, I was having this conversation. My mother actually when I talked to her the other day, she was like, oh, did you hear about this girl? Like, that's so sad. And she had this following, you know, it's surprising that she would kill herself. And I'm like, well, for me, I didn't find it that surprising. I mean, it was sad and it's very unfortunate emotions I have. But what I mean by it wasn't that surprising is that I think so often we look at somebody who has a following or has numbers or, you know, is posting happy pictures on Instagram or is tweeting all the time and is always up and out and knows other people as being okay. For me, it's like I have X amount of subscribers. I think I'm over 80K now, and I still feel lonely as fuck. And I don't think that these are not 80,000 subscribers is not going to fill the void of genuine relationship. And I think we disvalue how much something like, hey, how are you doing? Or just having a conversation or talking to somebody on the phone or a handwritten letter or a handshake or a hug or physical touch from someone who you know cares about you is of value. I think we so often feed into, oh, she got 16K on Instagram, she okay. And it just drills it like gets under my skin for people to assume that someone is okay because of a number of followers. Numbers are just that. They're numbers. A lot of people lurk on top of that. And for anyone who's trying to do a movement or put themselves out in the public sphere, there is a certain level of negativity that they're gonna have to deal with on top of that, but they might not be prepared for, especially if they don't have someone who they could turn and call to and talk to. I'm fortunate in that. And I was telling my mom, you know, like, I have her and my line sister my one line sister who I talk to often, and my one other homegirl. I got 3 people who I talk to on a close to regular basis that I am able to talk to about personal things, or I'm able to cry to on the phone, or I'm able to express my vulnerabilities and my weaknesses and the things that are going on in my head. But it's so easy for me to lose those 3 people. And, you know, I don't want to be like super negative, but I did say to my mother, you know, like, God forbid, you know, any day somebody can pass away. You know, things just happen in life. Everyone's not going to be around for forever. And it's like, I only have 3 people. And I can lose that so quickly. And it was like, you know, what, this girl might not have had family. Everyone doesn't have a close relationship with their mother. Everyone doesn't have a close line sister. Everyone doesn't have a really close friend who is able to have that judgment-free relationship. And it took me very long to kind of, aside from my mother, it's taken me a while to be able to develop relationships with 2 people who I'm not related to, and who are genuinely my friends. And it's not been easy to maintain relationships like that either. So don't disvalue or discount what it means for someone to have that physical interaction just because she has this following and she's doing these great things on the internet. It's on the internet. You cannot survive, you cannot eat, you cannot breathe, you cannot love, you cannot feel just off of an internet relationship. It has its limits, its boundaries, and it starts with a www and it ends with a .com. Don't discount how they're doing because you see them on YouTube or you see them on Facebook or you see them on Instagram or on Twitter. Don't discount that they're human beings and that there might be other things going on, and we all are not putting the whole story or the 360 or the all of us. A lot of us are evolving people. We're not stagnant. We don't stay in the same place. And so it does take a lot of emotional weight to kind of put yourself out there. And it means even more for people like me or people that are putting themselves out in the public sphere to have that interaction and that physicality and that care and that emotional stability in their real day-to-day life. And so I think that's very important. To my part, you know, I am a Delta and I am in an alumni chapter in Queens, and I have 2 Delta dears that I happen to love a lot. And I think especially when we get with older people, and this isn't age specific, you know, whether they're young, old, they're mothers, they have children, you know, people aren't going to get all their emotional needs through just having their kids. You know, people still need that friendship. It's just is what it is. I mean, I wouldn't try to overburden a person with a friendship, but being able to genuinely express your care for someone is of great value. And so what I do is my 2 Delta Dears that I love from Queens Alumni, they cross my mind, I pick up and call. And it might not sound like a whole lot, but like, especially as people get older and their friends die and their partners die and they start to lose people that they've always had around them, something as simple as hearing another voice on the other side of the phone and then just being able to talk about your day. You went grocery shopping, you picked out some gala apples, you went and played pinochle with your homegirls. But the fact that they can tell somebody that and that somebody can have a banter with them having a conversation, I think, I'm not saying I'm going to win some humanitarian award for, calling Thyra up and talking to her for an hour and a half. However, I do it because that's how I can show my care and my love for her. And I realize that, as someone who's lost her husband and, her friends, I think it matters that someone call and check in on her and just make sure she's okay, and not just call and say, hey, how you doing? Okay, you're good, bye. But like genuinely, talk about their day and what's going on. And people aren't always going to tell you what's wrong. It takes a long time for people to want to open up and share the negative things that are going on in their life, or the things that make them feel vulnerable, because so often when you are open and you do share with people, they throw back in your face. And as I've said in that lack of support from friends video, it's one of like the worst feelings ever to deal with, when you talk to somebody in confidence and they kind of use your weaknesses against you. And so I don't ever want that to deter someone from being kind of open about what's worrying them or what they need help with or what they need support with. Just be a little bit smarter about it. Don't tell everyone your business, but you can kind of feel people out and mention things in passing and see what they say about it. You can't fall into everyone's lap, but I just don't want anyone to either, one, go through life and feel like they don't ever have any support, or there's absolutely no one for them to talk to, or they can't ever tell anybody what's wrong with them, because we can only be seen as strong Black women and we can't be anything less than that. And in turn, also be mindful as a friend, the role that you play with your other friends. And, if they do take the time to open up to you, even if it's something that you don't agree with, don't ever throw that shit back in their face. I've had friends tell me shit that I'm just looking at them like, I think, girl, you was crazy. And I might, I have that candor with my friends, and I'd be like, that's not really my cup of tea, but I'm never going to bring that shit up later. I am never throwing things back into somebody's face and to belittle them or make them feel weak, because it's like, obviously there was some value that they found in the relationship with you to even tell you that in the first place. So you should respect the fact that they respected you to that level and just leave it there. Dominique passing, long hair, don't care, 2011. What was interesting is because she had in the past year kind of started knocking down her social media platform, so she hadn't uploaded a video in a year, and she had deleted her Instagram. And so I saw it on a message board first when people were talking about her passing away, and I was like, well, then I went to the link and I was like, well, this doesn't make sense, how do I verify this? And it's like, I'm thinking about how much I, in the times of weakness or vulnerability, tend to cut people off as well and start to social circles off, because I don't want people to know that I'm not okay and that I'm not doing well and I think I can handle it on my own. But in times of need, it's just so important to be able to have a network and have people that can support you, even if you don't feel okay asking for the support. And so it just made me think about, how much when I'm going through a hard time, I isolate myself, and it's a bad habit that I have to stop. I can't live in this singular world when I'm not doing well and only let everybody see me when I'm okay. That's not how the world works. And so I need to do better on that front. But yeah, I just want to open up the floor to have an honest discussion about dealing with mental illness, about dealing with loneliness, about living in a world where people are so self-absorbed and so okay with their life through their iPhone or through their cell phone, that I feel like we should be able to have a more open candor about things that are going on with us. So I don't know, I feel like I'm rambling, but if you have anything to share on the topic, please feel free to share. If there's anything more specific that you would like me to discuss, let me know, and I will try and do a video about that. And hopefully this helps with someone. I'm going to write a blog because I'm much better at writing blog posts that deal with my emotions than I am about communicating them. I really, really, really have an issue with being vulnerable, like to the point that I get tongue-tied and I can't say what I want to say. Like, I got all these thoughts in my head and I can't, when when it deals with emotions, I just can't verbalize it. So I will have a blog post. Link will be down below in the description box. And I hope to help somebody. And I hope to imbue people to go help others as well. And that is all. Thanks for watching. Please comment, engage, let me know what's going on. Tweet me if you have any extra things to say. I'm on Twitter at Jouelzy. Thank you. Check Jouelzy.com for the blog post.
Any Sudanese people watching this?
No, I do have Sudanese
followers,
subscribers, but they're in America and North Dakota.